The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Subaru Productions. Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tokupitch.
Yes,
Some a little different this time.
Yes.
We're pitching a game.
Yes, a video game. A game of videos, things that you play. Nope, because playa is beach. Anyway, we're doing a video game today. We were originally going to plan this, but I think it's better if we actually wing this. And the reason I sort of pushed this to do this one today is because Maximilian Dude and Justin Wong and who's the third guy?
Matt McMuscles.
Mac McMuscles did do a podcast just based on fighting games in general. But a couple weeks ago, they did one on single player modes in fighting games.
AKA the modes I always play.
Yes. Now, how do we want to base this? Because we could make it a fighting game.
Usually when it comes to game adaptations of Toku and especially anime, we're talking about fighting games. That's what they usually seem to be.
Especially with all like the Climax Fighter games.
Climax Fighters, Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm,
Yeah.
One Piece has a bunch of these, Bleach has a bunch. I think the latest Demon Slayer game was one as well. The last JoJo game was. It's the arena style 3D fighter where you have this big open space, you're running around and, doing all your crazy moves in there. Mm-hmm. And is that something you would like to do, or would you like to do something more different, shall we say?
I'm
2D or more like classic 3D, like your Soul Calibur, your Tekken. If you want to make it a fighting game at all.
I'm of two minds of this.
Okay.
And
what does the first mind say?
Before we actually do that, I do want to talk a little bit about the podcast, because they talked about how like the single player format for some fighting games is really dependent on the studio behind them. Not everybody could be Netherrealm.
Because they're the gold standard.
They're the gold standard.
When it comes to story modes and single player offerings.
Yeah, for single player things, it's like Netherrealm is that gold standard. And not everybody can do a story like them. Street Fighter V's story wasn't that great. Like, not everything needs to be huge and cinematic. Okay,
so forgive me if I'm jumping ahead, but you want to pick a dev team first before we decide on what game it's going to be?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's sort of the thing, because depending on the way that we end up going with this, it does end up changing who the dev team could be.
Okay. For
this particular game. And did we want to... I feel like we sort of had to restrict this to writer, at least initially. I feel like a Sentai one would actually be a little bit harder to do right now.
I actually have an idea for a Sentai game, but we could do that in a later episode. So we can just stick to writer for today. So do we want to do kind of like Batch Ride War, where we have like protagonist, we have like our primary writer and our secondary writer from like a certain era or most eras? Or do we want to just do a more, because like you and I have both been doing kind of a fighting game kick lately.
Yeah,
I've been playing Guilty Gear Strive lately, and
like a lot of Street Fighter.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters in Strive that that aren't in there that have been in previous games, but I don't really feel their absence because the cast feels so refined.
Yes,
and the tweaks to the gameplay have been well. So, do you want to stick to like a roster of like 10 or 12 to start with, and then like just imagine them being like the most refined version of those characters, and then later on the line we can add DLC.
Yeah,
as fighting games are often want to do.
And that's why I'm just like, all right, do I want this to be a fighting game, or do I want this to be more of an RPG? That's where my issue is sort of coming in, because I sort of want to split this into two directions. If we do a fighting game, it's going to be very different.
I think we should focus on fighting game for now. We could do RPG as a different video.
Okay.
Because that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down, and we'd be here for like 3 hours.
It's true. I think if we do the fighting game route, I sort of don't want to do it where it has like a ton of DLC like Street Fighter V did, or Tekken 7 for that matter. I think in all actuality we should probably do it a little bit more like Smash where...
When you say Smash, you mean like Ultimate Smash?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone is here.
Sort of. I'm more just talking about like Smash as a whole. Because one thing I miss from a lot of previous games, oddly enough, is unlockable characters. Playing through the game instead of having to buy extra characters.
Instead of having to buy them or grind for in-game currency, it's like,
even for grinding for in-game currency.
Dude, I'm actually really glad you brought that up. Because I remember like going back and playing like the original Smash, I had like an issue of like Tips and Tricks, if you remember that magazine.
Nintendo Tips and Tricks?
It was Tips and Tricks, which was like I think it was a spin-off of Nintendo Power, I think. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I don't remember. But yeah, I remember I bought that issue because the cover was Gex, Enter the Gecko on N64, and I wanted to find more remotes, and I was like, I wanted to find more stuff.
Scott the Woz is happy.
Oh, yes. Well, that one guy from Scott the Woz is happy.
We're playing Gex?
We're playing Gex? Oh, was it Gex Night? But inside that issue, there was like Smash Brothers, and that was the first time I'd ever heard about that game, the OG on N64. And there were 4 unlockable characters in that game. Captain Falcon, Jigglypuff, Ness, and Luigi.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at them, and it's like, you unlock them by doing this. And going into Melee when you started with like 15 characters and there were 12 unlockables. And I'm like, there's like 12 unlockable characters? That's so much more. How do I unlock these? And even going through, Brawl as well, even though a lot of them were unlocked in subspace, I think Melee is
that's sort of the way that I wanted to do
Melee was the peak of it, where it's like, just the fun of discovering ways to unlock characters. I mean, even if you did look it up in a magazine, and because that's what we had before the internet, kids.
I don't think we should do another Mewtwo, though. Remember the original way to get Mewtwo in Melee?
Oh.
24 hours?
Yeah, I remember. But that's not how I did it. You know how I did it? I played 700 versus matches.
Good Lord.
Oh, I sat there. It was, forgive the tangent. It was the super sudden death match where you start with 300% damage. Just ran up to the other guy, whacked him off the edge, and just did that like 700 times. It took me several days, but I got him.
Yeah,
I was proud of myself.
When it happened,
you can like leave the GameCube on with like 4 controllers plugged in, and then it'll count though.
I know
you could do that on Brawl.
We didn't do it that way. We just played, and I was at a sleepover like 2 a.m. where Mewtwo just showed up, and I beat him as Luigi.
Oh wow!
I wasn't ready. But back to that.
Sorry.
I sort of really like the way that Brawl and Ultimate did it, where you play through the game's story mode and unlock the characters that way. It feels really a little bit more earned to me. Or even if you did something like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for the Dreamcast, where you bought the characters using like an in-game currency. I love that. I thought that was fun. That felt earned. I felt deserved.
Yeah, I played it on the Xbox, and the Xbox did that too. It had the in-game store where you could buy characters, skins, and character art, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I remember that. I'm okay with that as long as it isn't too grindy.
Yeah,
because Injustice 2, I love that game to pieces. I cannot stand the gear system.
Oh, MK11 had the same issue.
I know. I can't stand the gear system, and I can't stand how grindy it is, as much as I
love the game.
Love everything else about that game.
Yeah.
So if it's gonna be in-game currency, I would like it to be in such a way that it feels like every step you're being rewarded for something. Mm-hmm. And this is why I bring up the Melee comparison again, Smash Melee, because Smash Melee really touched upon a euphoria button for unlocking stuff more than I think I'd ever experienced up to that point in all my time playing games. Just because like interstitials where you had to collect trophies and collecting, like all the different ways you could collect trophies and all the characters and the different ways you could unlock them. It was just so much fun to just explore ways to get things.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't unlock something, the game was still rewarding to play on its own.
Yeah, and I think the way that I sort of do want to do this is, if we're going to do a rider game, it sort of has to be something that threatens a timeline more than anything else.
That seems to be de rigueur today, or trope du jour, shall we say.
I think that's sort of the way to do it, if only because they're sort of all in different worlds. So we've had Violent Emotion Decade, and we've had Oma Zio.
Okay.
That sort of should be, I guess, more or less the final villain that they're sort of working towards. It doesn't have to be Chronica.
That's our master hand.
Yeah, it
our
doesn't
master hand, our Shao Kahn.
It does Chronica.
Chronica.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the way to work towards as the baseline for the story for this game.
Mm-hmm.
That way you could get something where you have all the writers sort of coming together.
Would you like Violent Emotion Decade to be our end boss?
Honestly, no. You know what I sort of want him to be?
What do you want?
If it's going to be Violent Emotion Decade, I think Violent Emotion Decade has to be a secret boss in the arcade.
Like an Air Mac.
Or a Shinakuma.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to do certain things to get to beat Violent Emotion Decade. Otherwise, you fight Oma at the end of the day. Or actually do it in the opposite. Make Oma like the final special boss or something like that. I would love that as a final. That way you can get the cinematic story of Netherrealm Studios to have something that everybody is working towards.
So that circles us back around to our original question. Who do we want to make this?
Netherrealm.
You want Netherrealm, okay.
I just think they do it the best. Even fighting game wise. Just because I like Street Fighter and all, but I do think there is an issue with their combo system and how their combos work. You could do, maybe even Arxis could do it. Except not the graphic novel way that they've done some of their
that they've done the story modes. You're basically just watching an anime.
Yeah, which I'm okay with. I do love doing that.
I mean, I love watching anime, but not while I'm playing fighting games.
Yeah, I don't want to have to keep pressing X. I'd rather do something a little bit more Netherrealm.
You're essentially watching an anime where you have to hit the play button every couple seconds.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't think I need to do that. If I could just press start and have everybody's dialogue keep going, that'd be great. But yeah, I think Netherrealm is sort of the way to go for this.
And I haven't really played MK11 all that much, but Injustice 2 was the last one that I really, I sunk so many hours into Injustice 2. And just that game is just so satisfying to play.
Yeah.
And just like the way everything feels, it's easy to pull off combos. It takes practice, but it just feels intuitive to do. I don't feel like I need to be as fast as the Flash in order to input certain things. And simple button inputs let you do really cool looking stuff.
Yeah. And sort of the reason why I picked Netherrealm and why I brought up that podcast at the beginning is like they said, not every game needs that really big story. You don't need a super big story for Street Fighter. But you do need one for Tekken. It just needs to be written better than they did in Tekken 7.
7, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Sucked. That reporter, Anyway, yeah, I feel like if you have it where it's time-based, so it's not even Deno. Deno actually gets taken out immediately to get rid of that.
Okay.
But
here is your one chance of repairing the time stream,
and he messes
and away
up.
he goes.
I do think, however, we do need a cutoff point, and I think that cutoff point needs to be the Showa, where just J backwards are not in this game.
That's good with me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think the mechanics will work as well with just basic character number 1. But at the same time, they don't have form changes, so it's actually really enough easier to make moves for them.
You see, because a fighting game with the Showas, I feel like could be its own separate pitch.
Yeah.
So I think we should. I like your idea. We're just sticking with. Are we just sticking with Heisei Niu Heisei, what we've gotten Reiwa so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it is
now are all the main riders going to be playable?
Yes.
Okay.
So that gives us
it's a big roster, yeah.
To start off with. But I mean, that way we also have DLC for secondaries and such, or unlockables for secondaries and such. Or
they could be like assists.
Yeah. Another one is just that way. I picked Netherrealm because they do the variation system on their move sets, especially in MK11 and X. So it'd be like, all right, this is the
demonstrate, if you will.
Well, it's not so much a demonstration because it's just it's something you pick at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you select the fighter.
Right, because they have different styles.
Yeah.
But there are also ways you tap a shoulder button, hit a button, and it gives you a stronger version of that attack.
Yeah. That
I
way,
like that.
You could also, like, whatever style that you end up choosing is the actual form that they end up changing to, if they have a form change.
I need a minute. Like, I'm shocked at how, like, I never thought of that, but that's a genius idea.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Because, wow. Yeah. Yeah. Because, you pick, do you want, like, teleportation? Do you want range? Do you want power? That sort of thing. For your MK11s and MKX did the same thing.
Yeah. Like, picture somebody like O's, who, and his variation is...
Do you want like an all-rounder, and that gives you Tataba?
Yeah.
Do you want more like speed and do you want more speed that'll give you Ratorata? Or do you want more power that'll give you Sagozo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way
and his X-ray move could be the X-ray move, that could be their final form. Yeah. We briefly get the final form, and then we get a move from that.
Or they'll do something. We'll have like the crypt or whatever that'll be called in this iteration, and they can unlock, if they have like a movie form or something, you can switch between the two for your final.
Yeah. You can switch between Game MK11 Johnny Cage and Lyndon Ashby's Johnny Cage. Yeah. Why not? The possibilities are endless.
And this way, I think one of the things I just love about Netherrealm more than anything is when two characters are fighting each other, they have some type of interaction at the beginning.
Love this. Love this.
That's one thing. Just like that way, the writers who have never met each other get something with another writer.
Because if you, especially if you have a good script behind it, and you have, them commenting on each other's outfits or each other's power sets or things like that,
or things they've heard about,
them. Like if we heard oh, that would be great. Like picturing
Cougar fighting Axel and talking about police work.
Yeah, something like that. That's a good example.
Yeah. You're welcome. But yeah, I just think Netherrealm has it the best. That way you could also have like survival mode and the towers and everything.
Yep.
And like the online towers that they have, which I love. I think they're so much fun. They're hard as hell, but they have like all these special conditions that they switch out every week. I think that's the way to do it for, at least in my opinion, the perfect fighting game. I don't think Netherrealm has a lot to change in the way that they approach things. They had
there are a few things, namely the way you unlock stuff, and
that's the main thing. We could, but yeah, I would love if just the level of story writing for the single player content and the arcade version, even the online. But I feel like they also do a good job of when they have guest characters. They bring in what they're known for.
Who would our guest characters be? Dude.
Captain Marvelous.
Okay.
Garo.
Keep in mind, we're talking about Netherrealm, who, in their last game, you could have a fight between, Rambo, RoboCop, the Terminator, the Joker, and they can fight God of Thunder, Lord Raiden. And whoever else you want.
Tommy Oliver.
I was going to say, dude! Bring Tommy Oliver in as
Lord Zed.
Lord Zed. We could bring in whoever we want.
The Teenage
Mutant Ninja Turtles. Use the same skill set from Injustice.
The ones from Beverly Hills.
Tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. Yep. You know what? I wouldn't hate it.
Just do the craziness.
I wouldn't hate it.
Do the craziness. I'm here for the craziness. But yeah, they could easily do something like that. And I feel like Netherrealm is sort of,
Samurai Flamenco.
Oh my god.
Samurai Flamenco.
Oh my god. Bring him in, talking to Drive. He's like, do you have a significant other? Yeah, it's like, yeah, she's a police officer. It's like, my husband was a police officer.
Mine too. What a coincidence.
Bam, that's the whole thing. I would love a fighting game like that, and I just think Netherrealm could just do it. They could just do the thing, do the do, and that way we could also get the music, the openings and such. Unlock a lot of things in the crypt. I think the crypt is just so much fun. exploring and opening things.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since they brought that in, what was it? Deadly Alliance? It was it Deadly Alliance or Deception when they brought that in as a thing. I think that was one of the best things that NetherRealm has ever done.
I want to say it was Deadly Alliance.
When they brought in the crypt, it was just like, yes, this is something I didn't know I needed.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we don't get jump scared and killed again like we did in 11, that was BS. Put on
I think that happened in 10 too. In X as well.
It might have, but I just remember Meat killing me in 11, and I was just like, well, that scarified the hell out of me. But yeah. See, that's where the adventure one is going to be completely different.
Okay,
like
so let's again that'll be another video because that's a whole other rabbit hole. Okay, so let's do a little recap. So we've got it's a 2D fighter.
Yeah.
Made by NetherRealm Studios.
Yes.
Kamen Rider focused. And it's Heisei through Reiwa cast. So Kuga through
Revise.
Through Revise, thank you. Do we want to have the crypt as our way of unlocking things, just less grindy than it is now?
You could make the crypt, because I do sort of want to start off with sort of a small cast.
What would it be instead of the crypt? Like, what would we call it?
Den Liner.
Oh, huh.
That way you can go through the various cars and stuff.
You can go through the various cars, and like one of them has, it could be like, like capsule toy machines or vending machines.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would work.
You have like a base where owner and what's her face are at, and you like go from there.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to like walk around it in 3D like you do in 11, or
walk around in 3D more like 10, not 11, because 11 you have the person that you're controlling.
Right.
Yeah. 11's script was weird.
Oh well. Who's our main villain again? Did we decide on?
It's either Oma or Violet Emotion. I just can't decide exactly which.
I think we should do Violet Emotion, because I would just love it if they got Decade's actor back.
They'll do it.
I would love to get.
They'll do it,
because I think he would be the only one we would see out of suit.
Inoue would do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We would like Inoue-san comes in and we get him to do a full body scan. He does the motion capture for it. He'll do his henshin sequence and everything, and I think that would be a great way to use that character.
Yeah.
And I think Omazuyo is would be a good super difficult like secret boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that either you unlock them through the crypt, or just like you meet them in like what you did in Deadly Alliance in the session where you do it in conquest mode and meet them that way.
I think to unlock Brainiac in Injustice 2, I think you had to beat like the story. Not I don't know if it was the story or like the classic like multiverse tower, like your base.
I think you could do it either way.
Your base tower, you had to beat it with like every character. I think was what you had to do.
Because I think
been a while since
you might have had to beat with every character, or you just play through the story and get them at the end.
Maybe.
Yeah. But yep.
Yeah. That is a game we would like to see.
Yes. NetherRealm, get on it. Ed Boon.
Drop what you're doing, NetherRealm. Listen to us.
Ed Boon, you're probably watching this.
That'd be kind of cool if he did. I think he's got better things to do with his time.
Like making MK12. Because I think that's actually coming out next instead of Injustice 3.
We'll see.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below.
Whatever they announce next, I look forward to it.
Yes. Hopefully soon.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to join us all the things. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching.